What's happening, golfing fans? Welcome back to the channel, brought to you in association with betting.co.uk. I'm Ginger Joe and I'm back again with my weekly golf selections for you to take a look at. And we've got 3 tour events to turn our attentions to this week. We have the DP World Tour, the PGA Tour, and then we've got the LIV Golf in Tulsa as well. But before I go on to give you those selections, just a few things to mention. First of all, just a recap of last week where we managed to back the winner Adrian Meronk at 20-1 in the Italian Open to ensure another profitable week on the channel, and that actually takes us over 340 points total profit for this season alone. So hopefully with the second major of the season coming next week, we can add a little bit more profit to play with for next week as well. Now, I've got a free horse racing and golf group chat, which if you'd like to come over and join, there's a free link in the description below, and I give away a free bet every single week just for supporting the cause. And also in the description below, there is a bet £10, get £40 of free bets from Betfred, courtesy of betting.co.uk. So we move straight on to the selections now. We're going to start with the Soudal Open in Belgium, taking place at Rinkven International Golf Club. 6,940 yards, 2 par 5s and 3 par 3s. So a very unusual layout for a track. But one thing for certain is definitely required is good approach play, and you need to obviously be rocking that putter pretty well as well. It has hosted some tour events 3 or 4 times before. Rough average scoring between 10 and 12 under, so we can probably imagine similar sort of stats and scoring again, providing that conditions obviously stay the way they are at this point in time. I do have 5 selections in the DP World Tour. I've got 5 in the DP World Tour, 4 in the PGA Tour. And what I'm going to do is just put up the 1 selection for the LIV Golf circuit, because I don't want the multiples to start adding up too much. But if we're fortunate enough to land the winners on the DP World Tour and the PGA Tour, then we'd have a chance at hitting the miraculous treble as well heading into next week. But very interesting course here at Belgium, and my first selection is actually my bet of the week anywhere on the tour events, and that's Clement Soudal, the Frenchman. Currently world number 290, and he's 60-1 for this field. Actually, I was thinking of putting him up, but I was actually quite certain he was going to be a little bit shorter in the betting. But 60-1, I think, is huge odds, and he's definitely my best bet of the week. He's really impressed me so far this season, really consistent, and his last 18 rounds have come between 67 and 72, bar 1 blip of 76. His best efforts are coming in his last 2 fields as well. He was 7th in the Korean, he was 9th in the Italian Open, and I think he could go really well at this sort of track. It's much easier, and you definitely want a good approach play. He's definitely a person that has that in his arsenal. Got really good stats coming into this field as well. You probably find it hard to find someone with many better stats than what Clement Soudal has at the moment. His driving distance is average of 324 yards, which puts him in the top 10 on tour. He's got a 1.7 putting average on greens in regulation, which puts him 7th on tour. Then his average putts per round puts him 4th on tour on his own. He's really playing well at the moment. You'll really find it difficult to find stats from any other player like that strong at the moment. Plays here this week, then he goes off and plays in the US Open final qualifiers, and it could be a really big week for Clement Soudal at 60-1. My second selection is Marcus Hellig-Kilde from Denmark. He was actually eligible to play last week in the Italian Open, but he decided to take that off, and he may actually fit a little bit fresher for this field because of that reason. He was actually 2nd in career. He's played well all season. His last 4 form figures, 13th, 17th, 75th, and then managed, as I said, to finish 2nd in the Korean Open. He's got really good stats for this one too. He's 8th in the putting when he hits the green in regulation. He's got an above tour average of 71% of greens in regulation hit, which you definitely need at this sort of field. And he's 18th in the stroke average over the entire tour. Now, he's a maiden winner, a maiden on tour at the moment. He's a 2nd season starter on the DP World Tour, and I think his first win could only be around the corner. I can't imagine it being too far away now for this youngster. He's really impressed me so far. Marcus Hellig-Kilde at 33-1 at selection number 2. My third selection is world number 104, Yannik Paul, who has definitely become a bit of a regular on my channel. Last week I actually mentioned it was a good opportunity for someone to put their name into the Ryder Cup hat, playing at the track hosting the Ryder Cup event this year. And it was either going to be Yannik or Adrian Meronk, and we chose correctly. We put Meronk, who won last week, and I think by Yannik Paul coming back again this week, he's going to have a really, really good chance again. He's 12th in the Road to Dubai series and could put himself right up there in 4th or 5th place with Adrian Meronk, providing he gets a good win on tour this week. He won on the DP World Tour last year by winning the Mallorca Open. This year he's been 2nd in the Thailand, he was 2nd in the Indian, and then he was 6th in the Handa. Then he had 2 really decent efforts in the Korean and Italian Open, really consistent, 73% green in regulation stat at the moment, 13th on tour. As I mentioned, you really do need that here. Just a really solid player. My question is he has played a lot in recent times. Is this going to be sort of, maybe he should have had a week off and given himself a break, but he's keen to play. He must be fitting well, and I do think he's good enough to get himself a Ryder Cup spot. So I'd really like to stick with Yannik Paul this week at 20-1, which is way too big. I thought he'd be favourite. But the likes of Thomas Dietrich, the Belgian in here, that has actually pushed his price out to 20-1, which is very, very big. And Yannik Paul is my third selection of the DP World Tour. Just to mention for Thomas Dietrich, I thought he was going to open up favourite. He has opened up as favourite for this race, but this field, in fact, but I don't think he's got what it takes to win this mentally. He so often finds himself in a good position, but I think he may have earned that much money now. He just seems to be a little bit disinterested. Peter Cowan actually mentioned before that he sort of lacked interest in the sport the last 2 years. He hasn't really got any form to back it up, and I wouldn't want to be backing Thomas Dietrich, regardless of it being in his home country, at 14-1. Way too short. My fourth selection is going to be Ewan Ferguson, Scottish, two-time DP World Tour winner, 50-1 and a really good iron player as well. He actually jumped into my sort of form book when he won the Handa Championship last year, shooting an opening card of 60-1 and was never able to get caught from that position. Again, he's got an above tour average of greens in regulation. He's got 71.5%. He was 70% last year, and his stats just seem to keep improving every single year. If he produces that again this week, he could have a really good chance here. Third in the SDC, fourth in the Johnson Workwear. Struggled a little bit in the Italian Open last week, but not too off the pace, to be honest, just to miss the cut. And I think that he could have a really good opportunity at this rate, this field as well. My fifth selection for the Soudal Open is Andy Sullivan, a four-time DP World Tour winner. And even though that hasn't been for 8 years, you can get 75-1 for Andy Sullivan. He's actually been playing really good on the Clutch Tour, which is like a mini pro tour. You have 2-day shootouts. Top players actually go and play in there. You have 20,000 odd pounds for the winner. So he has actually got some really good form there, which you wouldn't have seen on the stats online. However, seemingly coming back to form, he finished tied for 10th in career last week. And in an interview after as well, he said that his game was definitely back in the right position. Comes into this race back on track. Been put too many horse race selections today. And if he plays well here, I do think that he could actually go really, really well. My worry for him is could he last the 4 rounds? But 75-1 for Andy Sullivan. I'm going to take a chance for him being my fifth selection for the event. I wouldn't actually put anyone off putting a bet off on Andy Sullivan being the first round leader. He really can seem to go low. Can he last the 4 rounds? Maybe, maybe not. But I'm putting him up at 75-1 in hope that he has another good week. Then if we move on to the AT&T Byron Nelson, this is at TPC Craig Ranch here, named after the 5-time major winner Byron Nelson, 7,414 yards. Hosted this for the previous 2 years as well. 3 par 5s, 4 par 3s, par 72. The last 2 winners have been Lee Young-eun, who's won it 2 years running, 25 under and 26 under last week. So he's actually going to be going for a 3rd year in a row, which really would be quite remarkable. Going to be really low scoring again. And I'm sure he's going to give it a really good run for his money. I've got 4 selections for you in this field. Starting off with a very unoriginal selection. Jordan Spieth at 9-1. No brownie points for picking him at this sort of price, but he was really good in this event for the past 2 years, and he's got that short game back on form, and I really think that having that on side is really going to help his causes. You need someone that's going to be rocking the putter to be getting these sort of low scores, which are likely again this year. And he's the 13-time winner on tour. He's a major champion. I just think he's got the really good credentials for this field indeed. He's got some good form coming into this year as well. He finished 4th in the Arnold Palmer, 3rd in the Valspar, 4th in the Masters, and then he was 2nd in the RBC. No brownie points for picking Jordan Spieth, I know, at 9-1, but I think he's a really solid option, and I think he's going to go very well indeed. My second selection is going to be Eric Cole at 100-1, and the Byron Nelson is actually set up the last few years for players that can go really low, and Eric Cole's definitely one of these players. He's 100-1 for this event, yet he was 2nd in the Honda Classic, he was 5th in the Mexican Open, and his scores generally are very, very low. Even if he chucks in the bad one there, 100-1 is way too big for his chances here with 10 places available in Ladbrokes and Corals. My third selection is going to be Ben Griffin at 80-1, a player that I really do like, a pretty young player as well, yet to win on tour, but he's a player that's going the right way. In this past year, he's had a lot of finishes between the sort of 15th and 30 spots on the field, so he's not too far away, and he does sustain that pressure when he gets himself into a good position as well. Whilst he hasn't necessarily looked like winning yet, he's learning very well on the job in the biggest events out there at the moment, and I think he could be the surprise package of the field. 80-1 for Ben Griffin in the Byron Nelson. Now, my final selection is going to be Tom Kim at 25 to 1. He's my final selection for the PGA Tour this week, and he's a player that definitely seems to play well based on momentum. I think when the crowd get behind him, he really seems to enjoy this, and it brings out the best in Tom. He's already a two-time winner on the PGA Tour. He's already had a top 20. He's already in the top 20 of the world golf rankings as well. And I think that he's got a really good chance here if he starts off fast in day one. Really low scoring, good with a putter, good with those wedges, and he's going to have a really good chance here as well. Now, finally, onto the LIV Golf in Tulsa. I've just got the one selection for you at Cedar Ridge Country Club, 7,213 yards. On the basis that we have a winner in the PGA Tour and the DP World Tour, I think it could be worth adding Cam Smith at 11 to 1 to those selections. Really solid player, one of my favourite. And again, not necessarily the most original sort of option here, but he's a major winner. He's been playing very well last year, and he's just hungry to have more wins under his belt. To me, he's the best player on the LIV Golf circuit this year. I think he's actually the best player out of the players in the world at the moment as well, and I think that he's going to set up really nicely for this event as well. He won't be too far away at 11 to 1, so if we're lucky enough to land the spoils in the first two events, then I do think we could have a really good chance of landing the trebles as well. But, of course, there's plenty of big prices on offer, so you only need to keep these stakes small, and there's the selections for this week. The DP World Tour, just to confirm, it's Clement Soudal, Marcus Helig-Kilder. We have Yannik Paul, Ewan Ferguson and Andy Sullivan. On the PGA Tour, going for Jordan Spieth, Ben Griffin, Eric Cole and Tom Kim. And then on the LIV Golf circuit, we're going to go for Cameron Smith to maybe land some majestic treble. So, they're the selections for this week. Thanks to everybody that's tuning in. Do gamble responsibly, and don't forget to click subscribe on this video to get your entry for some free bets as well. Thanks for tuning in. I'll be back again next week with some more selections. Bye for now.